through hands-on training, and then to connect them with potential employers. These are three absolute foundations of our organization that will never change. So in order to achieve this, we're aiming to become the central communication point from OSU students across disciplines to OSU faculty and analytics professionals. And we're trying to merge these three areas and bring opportunities from every area and really enrich every single one of these areas. So I'll go into our events now because that's really how we operate from the top down, is our weekly and monthly events. We really break down our events into 4 different areas. So I'll go over each one. And first, our bread and butter are tech talks. We usually have a tech talk every single week. And these tech talks are usually sponsored by our sponsors. So our sponsors will come in, give a company introduction just to get the students familiar with what they do and how they're connected with analytics. They'll go over their use of analytics, so they'll go over how exactly they've implemented this fastly growing and evolving field into their company, and the challenges, the accomplishments that they've faced, and they'll really go into depth with that over the hour of that tech talk. Last but not least, definitely not least, is they give career advice to our students. So I can't stress enough just how important this last bullet is. We get students coming back again and again saying, I wouldn't have my current job had it not been for, these tech talks, for BDAA, for these sponsors that come in and, graciously give their time to, educate college students like us. This career advice really is pivotal in this event, and it's one of the main points of this kind of tech talk. Let's move on. So the next event, and I'd say the next most frequent event, are workshops. These are typically 1.5 hour sessions. Typically you'll have an education portion in the beginning. So you'll have a company background in the very beginning. The sponsors or the company that's giving the workshop, or students like us that are giving the workshop, will educate the students. In the picture on the bottom there, you'll see a slide on latent derelict allocation. So we'll go over that, and then we'll really get our hands dirty with it. We'll really start applying the skills that we've just gone over. And hopefully the students come out of the session with something that they can be proud of, something that they can work on, something that they can research into further. Again, these are company or internal speakers. So, we'll have board members that want to give a workshop on Python or SQL or, Microsoft Azure, and we'll draw up a presentation, a workshop, and we'll give that. And also we have a lot of companies that are interested in giving workshops to our students. Namely, Cognitier has been the most frequent provider of workshops in the past. Generally speaking, the workshops from companies are charged by a fee, and the internal workshops are usually have no charge. This is definitely an area of improvement for us. We've been talking a lot in our e-board meetings about how can we reduce the financial burden of these workshops, because even when these companies like Cognitier slash the prices of their workshops that they usually give to huge companies, college students usually can't afford it. So we really want to reduce the financial burden, or just completely get rid of the financial burden, by generating our own content, so that this is really a student-led effort. And of course, in the future we'll accept company-led workshops, but we're really focusing on generating our own content so that it persists throughout the future years and the future semesters. Third event, socials. We do have a lot of socials in our organization. I think we had five or six socials so far this semester and throughout the year. Here you'll see one of our socials. We like to go out to restaurants or somebody's house and just kick back or really just get to connect with our members and make it easy for the members to connect with our e-board and really just encourage and promote that. And then last but not least, we have semesterly and yearly events. Namely, we have our sponsor night and our career fair. And the career fair usually happens in our fall semester. We have 10 to 15, maybe 20 companies come out, set up booths, and the students will come in and it'll operate like your typical career fair, except this career fair is focused on analytics and analytics talent. So again, we're connecting our members and our students with opportunities in the field, with real world opportunities. I briefly touched on those sponsor nights that we have. So at the end of every semester, we'll have a sponsor night for all of our paying sponsors that have generously donated their money to us to carry out our operations. And this night is really to, again, appreciate them, focus on them, see what their areas of concern are, or what kind of content they want to host in the future, how they want to get engaged with us and the students in the future. In terms of other events, sometimes, occasionally, we'll have a company reach out to us and want to host a company project. Namely, we've had the Columbus Collaboratory, Lubrizol, and Cardinal Health come out to us and offer up a project for students to work on, usually over 2 to 4 months. So these are definitely more long-term projects. Secondly, and analogously related, case competitions, and these happen a little more often than company projects. And these are typically in a shorter time frame than the company projects. So these case competitions, we've had AEP Energy, internal supply chain, an internal supply chain competition going on. And we really get a lot of positive feedback from these. And these two events are really something we want to focus on in the future, bringing more real world, long-term projects to our students. And then thirdly, we have BDAI, which we just launched this semester, really. That stands for Big Data and Analytics Investments. So this is a cross-disciplinary investment team of students that we've selected over an interview process. And they meet with some of our e-board members and they invest money that we've provided into stocks using analytics. And this is a great opportunity for some of our students who are more focused on finance, accounting, investment banking. This has really generated a lot of interest from those students, and we're proud to continue this kind of sub-organization. The AEP Energy Case Competition I just talked about. In this competition, we provided recommendations for AEP as to why customers might leave the company. For this case competition, we used Power BI and R. And usually, the students get to choose whichever one of these tools that they want. They get to choose whether they want to use Python or Excel or R, although typically we do have most of our participants using Excel, through Power BI or R to analyze the data and really put together their thoughts on the case competition. The factors in this case competition that were considered were price, satisfaction, and relocation. And that was really, data set specific and case competition specific. we really like to take opportunities from any and all disciplines, any and all companies or sponsors that want to reach out to us and offer up a case competition, we're happy to take. The Columbus Collaboratory project, again, that was one of our more long-term projects, 2 to 4 months. We provided insight into why young tech professionals would want to stay or move from Columbus. I suppose I should explain what exactly the Columbus Collaboratory is, because we have some folks joining us from around the nation and from outside Ohio. The Columbus Collaboratory is a collection of some really big companies that center here in Columbus. We have L Brands, you know, Nationwide, Cardinal Health, Donato's, really coming together, helping to form a team of analytics professionals that will serve almost as consultants to them. So I would absolutely suggest looking into the Columbus Collaboratory. It's a very unique company setup, and they really give off an exciting feel, at least to BDAA. I know I've interacted with some of their staff, and what they're doing is just very exciting, and it's a very new take on analytics consulting. So again, the tools here use MATLAB, Java, Excel, some of the platforms and software that our students are familiar with. We have found that our students usually aren't too familiar with R or Python enough to use them for a thorough analysis, so they'll often resort to Excel. And again, you know, hearkening back to our aim to generate our own content, this is something we want to focus on. We want to empower our students through hands-on training, right? We want to train them on the newest and most cutting-edge technologies and software, so that they can make their analyses the most thorough as possible. Yeah. And then the Lubrizol project, we conducted research related to natural language processing. So again, you know, hitting on that multidisciplinary aim and focus for these projects. Couple bullets here: scraping research papers for useful information. And this was all done through Google Cloud Platform, which was happy to sponsor us for this project. And I'll hand it over to JT now, who will talk about our e-board structure and, you know, how we conduct ourselves from the top down.
Thank you, Cole. So if any of you have some questions about some of those projects, I personally worked with organizing the AEP Case Competition, as well as was in the Columbus Collaboratory project. So don't think we can necessarily give you the results of all those decisions or of all those projects, being that they were all for companies, and we had to obviously sign non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that. But if you have any more questions after this event, we can kind of give you an idea of some of the more in depth about what the factors we considered, at least. So yeah, to give you an idea of our e-board structure, though, so we have a fairly big team, and we're working about finding ways to make sure everybody has enough work to be doing and contributing to the org. So currently we have 10 different e-board members, as well as a liaison team. So most of the first several are ones that you would think of in a typical organization. And for finances, we break up the treasurer role into a CFO role as well as a treasurer role. So the CFO is kind of more of a strategic role, thinking about ways we can better use our resources in the now and then in the future. And the CFO is the one that leads that BDAA, so that our investment team. So we have obviously, you know, Cole's our education director, so handles and is in trying to improve our educational opportunities that we can provide. Event coordinator, so we have, like Cole talked about, a lot of different events that we have throughout our semester. So the event coordinator deals with our socials, our sponsorship night at the end of the semester, working out workshops, or the details and logistics of workshops. We also have a corporate relations director. So since the beginning of BDA, we've been very company focused, as you could see from some of the projects that we've worked on. And so our corporate relations is the person who is the direct point of contact for all of our sponsors, as well as any other companies that might be interested in coming and doing a tech talk or a workshop. And then we also have an internal relations director. So that person manages both the liaison team and also working on getting connections across Ohio State. And so this is just a picture, some pictures from our website, but to kind of give you an idea of the different kind of roles we have represented. And so we talked about company sponsors. So company sponsors are the main way we get our funding. As you can see by this picture, so we have 10 different company sponsors, and they're from a variety of disciplines. So we have sponsors in the financial world, in automation, and chemical services, as well as software and healthcare. So this is pretty exciting for us, because just like data analytics in itself is pretty broad, and we have a wide variety of majors represented. We have a lot of interest as well in the different paths that people want to pursue. So this provides a chance for students to hear about all different type of industries and really kind of narrow down to which they might want to pursue after graduation. So in terms of how we actually went about acquiring those sponsors, so we were lucky enough that our advisor at Ohio State, he works and has worked for a while at Nationwide, and so Nationwide was one of our sponsors at the beginning, and he's helped us branch out and get into contact with a lot of different companies, as well as some of our old BDA members have gone and worked at startups, gone and worked at other tech companies and consulting, and so they've been able to provide us a wide variety of connections as well. And then in terms of our focus of what we can provide for those companies, so like we've talked about, we have a big meeting variety, whether it's those tech talks, workshops, whether it's case competitions. We're open to whatever way we can provide value to the companies, and the companies can provide value to students. So we're very open to working in a variety of ways. We also, like I said, have a wide variety of members and disciplines. So data analytics is a major that's just started like 3 or 4 years ago at Ohio State, and so that's one of our biggest draws. But we also have students from computer science and industrial engineering, but also a wide variety of things like psychology, political science, stuff like that. And then we really worked, like I've said previously, to build on some of those past connections with BDA members, but we're also trying to keep on growing those in the future, and we'll talk about that in a few slides. So in terms of, again, what we can provide the sponsors, so this is a couple pages from our sponsorship packet. Kind of gives an overview about all the things that we can provide. And as you can see here, we have different like sponsorship levels. And so typically, as we're reaching out to companies, we can kind of gauge their interest and see if they would be willing to sponsor us at any level. But we also know that companies like startups, for example, might not have the financial resource to do so, and so we're flexible with that. But in terms of the specific benefits that we offer, so we talked about our career fair, and that's honestly probably one of the biggest draws for companies. Companies get like a big discount if they sponsor us at any level, and then they're able to come to our career fair. But in the last career fair, we had over 20 different companies come and participate. So we've had a lot of participation outside of just our 10 sponsors. We also have a resume bank on our website. So for any active member of BDA, they can submit their resume online. And so companies can go on our website and they can either just look for a particular name, they can search for a particular type of skill, whether R, Python, or whatever it is that they want to look up, and only those resumes will pop up that have those words included. As Cole mentioned at the beginning, we also have over 1,600 members on our email listserv now. So we have an email list that goes out, and we include job opportunities, anything related to analytics, and highlight our meetings in the coming weeks. So on the bottom right there is kind of an example of our email format. So now kind of give you a good idea of everything that we do, but we'll talk about some of the things that we've learned, some of the things we've done well, and then obviously some things that we still want to improve on and grow. So in terms of what we think we've done well, so BDA from the start, like I said, has been very company focused. We've been very professional. So set up front kind of the benefits that we can provide companies. We're obviously very thankful for the support they give, and try to convey that in our meetings, and provide them follow-ups like gifts for coming in, and always keep the opportunity open for more relationships to build and to grow. And so again, like I talked about, we've provided a lot of value to companies, and I think the companies can see the value in our students, and we've engaged students in a variety of ways, some of the ways that we talked about. So in terms of the future and ways we can improve, so one of the things that Cole is actually working on is creating what he has up there is a big data and analytics cohort. So the workshops that we have are great in that it's cool that you can go and be, especially for the internal workshops, be provided a skill at no cost. But at the same time, the best way to learn analytics is obviously not just sitting down for a 1.5 hour period and then not using it again. And so what we're trying to foster here is more consistent learning. So the idea of this would be that students would form groups of 3 to 5 that can meet on a weekly basis and try to learn a particular skill. And then after about a month or so of learning, they can be provided with a company that can work with them on a specific data set or a specific project. We're also really working to develop more connections. So we've done a great job with companies, but Ohio State has invested a lot of resources into hiring analytics faculty. So up there on the right, you see the Translational Data Analytics Institute, and so they've been working on the last couple of years, I think, hiring over 100 different faculty members in the analytics realm. So we've recently kind of grown that relationship with TDI, and they're starting to try to get connected more to students. So we're moving into a new building this next semester after the summer, and our office will be right there with a lot of the analytics faculty. And so we're going to really try to develop those relationships and see where we can help them, whether it be with their research and where they can provide mentorship as well. And we also want to develop more connections with graduate students. So I had the opportunity to talk with Arya, who gave a presentation for the Michigan's data science team. And so their organization is actually about 50% graduate students, like master's and PhD level. So obviously a lot of them have more technical skills than the students that we have walking in as freshmen. So I think to be able to provide more mentors for learning is a great way to begin to grow as well. And then finally, something we talked more about recently is creating BDA as a national organization. So analytics, I guess, has been around for in a sense for a while, but it's obviously grown a lot in its capabilities, and it's starting to become more popular around universities around the country. So I think there's opportunities at some schools we've identified in Ohio where we can help kind of build out those programs. And lastly, so we're very open to collaboration with some of the organizations that we've already heard from, but organizations that we haven't heard from yet in these presentations. We're excited for the chance to try to work with some of these groups, for whether it be for single events or sitting down and giving each other advice. So we'd love to share more in person or over the phone, and so I can kind of leave you with this slide up here that has our contact email and information. So we want to just say thank you for having us on this event, and we'll welcome any questions that you guys have.
Thanks very much. Thanks, JT and Cole. That's great. And I have a couple questions. This is Melissa Cragin. I'm the Exec Director of the Midwest Big Data Hub, for those of you who might not have met me. I have a couple questions, but I'm going to hold them till we see if there are questions from the audience, because you all are engaged with so many different activities. It's just fantastic. So there's a chat area for those of you that are dialed in but muted. If you've got questions, I'm happy to relay them. You potentially can also unmute yourselves. There's unfortunately no hand raising option here. So the easiest way is just to type a message in the chat window. So any questions from the audience today? Okay, well, oh, there's Leor. Okay. Great, went to everyone so you all can see that. What's the population of students participating in these activities, and do most students come from certain disciplines?
So I'd say typically, we track our member attendance, and it depends on what time of the year, but typically I think recently we've been having maybe around like 40, 50 people at most of our meetings. And then I think I mentioned a little bit, but with the data analytics major, I think that's kind of our biggest draw. We've kind of become, in a sense, like the organization for that major. So that's our biggest one. CSE is definitely the big number two. But we also have students from industrial engineering, economics, business, or yeah, a lot of business students in general, and a variety of other fields. So.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, as I said before, we started in 2014 as a small enthusiast group of mostly data analytics students, because the data analytics major had just started to become a thing. But more and more, we've seen that, you know, it's kind of clicked in our students' heads that analytics is multidisciplinary. It's not just something for math geeks or nerds. So we've seen those numbers in students from the College of Business or from arts and sciences from other majors grow substantially. And hopefully we'll see that, you know, grow and start to level out more in the coming years. And, you know, especially as the data analytics major grows. I mean, today, the data analytics major at Ohio State is sitting at 50 students in the major right now, with, you know, over 400, I believe, pre-major students. So, I mean, I think that just shows the amount of interest from students coming into college. And we're excited to be growing with that as well.
So I've got a question on engaging with the corporate partners, and that is it's a sort of a two-tiered question. One is your organization attached to the TDAI, to the institute, the new TDAI group? Are you attached directly to one of the units on campus? What's the role of faculty advisors for you in helping engage industry, please?
Can you further elaborate on directly connected or directly attached, as you said?
Yeah. So yeah, sure. So it has to do with, my question really is about how do you engage the industry partners? So how does that actually evolve? You know, so there had to be a starting point of having engagement with some of your industry sponsors. And I'm curious to hear a little bit about how that happens. Does a faculty member bring them? So how does that work?
So I guess a good way to start to answer this question is to kind of go over the history of TDAI. TDAI is just really starting to get on 2 feet right now. You know, they started as, I'm forgetting the exact phrase right now, but kind of a focus by the university. They wanted to see more faculty and researchers invest time into data analytics. This focus was placed alongside, you know, areas like water cleanliness and extreme poverty in third world countries and solving hunger in third world countries, a lot of different multidisciplinary areas. You know, and the interest in data analytics was so great that the TDAI secured, you know, millions of dollars of funding from both corporate sponsors and the university, so that they could become their own institute. So that institute actually just started last year in 2016, and we're going to see next semester that operations are really going to, you know, start kicking off, because there's a building on campus, a huge building that's being remodeled, renovated for the Translational Data Analytics Institute specifically, and for the data analytics major. So I think that this is really going to serve as a physical hub for students, faculty, researchers, staff from TDAI to connect. I'd say it was last semester that a couple representatives from TDAI, namely the program director and a project manager, reached out to us just so that they could initiate some contact, because, you know, I think we both knew that we were going to be working very closely in the future. So our engagement with them on a project level has been very limited recently, but we're expecting that to really kick off next semester with projects and with direct engagement with them and their sponsors and their founders. I think the other question you were asking were, what's the role of faculty in our organization, and how do they really reach out to us? You know, we really don't engage with a lot of faculty and researchers, typically speaking, but we do occasionally have presentations from researchers or faculty, and we also host some specific events for that. And, you know, again, we're really hoping to ramp that up in the future, along with TDAI's resources of, you know, as JT said, over 100 faculty that they just hired. You have anything to add, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what you said, all sounds good. Yeah, I think we've actually recently met with them. A couple of our e-board members have met with a representative from TDI this past semester, and so we're really starting to talk about how we can kind of benefit each other and you know, just be more integrated, I guess. We were lucky enough at the beginning. Cragin, who was our president a couple of years ago, I don't think she was the founding, but she was maybe started the year after. She actually put on a Women in Analytics conference in Columbus and within this last month, and so she was very good about just like going out and meeting people and building the connections herself. And so we started out with some sponsorship from some of the bigger companies like Nationwide and Cardinal Health in the Columbus area, and then it kind of just slowly grew from there over the last couple of years.
Right. Gotcha. And in our discussions with TAI, we really have put a focus on, okay, how can the faculty engage with the students? How can researchers engage with the students, so that maybe, you know, the students can work with the faculty, get some research experience, really get themselves tied into the data analytics atmosphere at Ohio State.
Well, that's great. That's great. So, and Logan asked a question, which is a perfect segue. So how did BDAA get started? But also, how quickly were you able to scale it up?
So I guess our advice, I don't know too much about, I guess the initiation, I guess, of BDAA, so, or the conception. So our advisor has been with us since the beginning. It started 4 years ago or so, and as a employee, or I think he's like a director of analytics there. Nationwide really was one of like the big companies that really wanted to make Ohio State like a really big data analytics hub, and so they kind of invested in this group, especially at the beginning. There was just a couple of students that, like Cole said, were kind of a couple enthusiasts for it but I mean, luckily, I think with the initial people that started it created a really good structure. We've been building off of it from the beginning in terms of like what we can provide our sponsors, and so I mean, I guess building up to what we are now, I feel like it has scaled pretty quickly in that 4-year period.
You know, I think something to mention or highlight here is the enthusiasm and the buzz around analytics here in Columbus.
Yeah.
What some people really might not know or guess is that Columbus is an incredible space for startups. It's an incredible space for new tech to come in. I think I just heard in one of my classes that we're called Test Market USA. A lot of companies come here to test their products before they roll them out to the entire nation. We get a lot of attention about new technologies. So it really was the next logical step, or I mean, a no-brainer that companies would be interested in our organization, seeing as that Ohio State is very, very much integrated into Columbus, very, very, very much tied in. So it really just evolved out of that excitement and enthusiasm for analytics here.
Any more questions for the team? So I just want to add, again, let me say thank you again, but also I'm actually fascinated that you've got the investment group. That is so novel. You're the first. I've talked to a lot of student groups and been out across a lot of campuses, and I think that's such a novel aspect. And I also, some of the ways you're engaging with industry is a little bit different than other campuses as well. So this has been a really nice addition to our sort of, groups membership. So to our set of people, and adding some really nice new information for our members and participants.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, so in the audience, any final questions? Okay, well, let me, before everybody signs off, we will have for the semester one more presentation next month. So the end of the month, I believe it's April 28th, we'll have our final webinar for the semester. Look forward to announcements about who will be speaking next month. So gentlemen, thank you again. Look forward to meeting you in person, and hopefully we'll see you at one of our events.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.